An old television lies abandoned in the grass on the outskirts of suburbia. Despite a severed and frayed cord, the dirty screen still sporadically flickers to life, showing disjointed segments of a strange program. Photos of real people, places, and objects flash on the screen as an unseen, echoing narrator describes them. Their personality, powers, hopes, fears, anything. Few have actually seen the program, and most think it to be no more than a local legend. But, according to those who do believe, the show goes a little something like... GAIA, the Great Forest. This sweeping, sentient woodland alone lays claim to about a fourth of Earth's land. And, not so easy to satisfy, every other forest in the world, no matter how small or remote, is connected to and sustained by GAIA, be it through her monstrous root systems or the odd spatial anomaly. To care for the endlessly diverse creatures under her canopy, GAIA maintains an equally diverse set of environments. You have your basic perma-fall, spring, winter, and summer zones, but then it quickly gets interesting. You have places like the Enchanted Forest, the Dark Enchanted Forest, the Dreamscape, and the Nightmarescape, while also having places like the Lost City, the Quarry, and the Shire. The heart of the forest, however, for the few outsiders that get to see it, seems underwhelming in comparison. A simple pine zone, a little more overgrown than most, not immune to seasonal weather, and with no unique phenomena. Living here, though, in a cozy cottage, is an ancient being called NADIA, the forest elemental. Over the centuries, NADIA has been known under a number of titles. Goddess, guardian, sorceress, she isn't an uncommon presence in the old legends. And while her characterization may vary some across time and authors, all myths can agree on her absolute mastery over earthbending. That's all plants, soil, and stone, sometimes with the addition of lower-level air and waterbending too. But her abilities don't quite stop there, because based on a number of stories, her plant powers aren't actually strictly plant powers. She can make nearly anything grow and even evolve, from people to books to even technology, though that's not exactly her forte. The denizens of the forest are always depicted as treating NADIA with the weight and respect of a queen, but despite her overwhelming age and power, also as a kind of mother or even friend. For most of the modern age, for a number of reasons, NADIA wasn't generally believed to even be real. But then, sometime in the 60s, a fire-breathing spider hound escaped from deep within the quarry and got after a friendly band of traveling bards. The frantic group made it to a village of wood elves, but the spider hound quickly burned through all their defenses. After a few elven casualties, the guards fell back and sounded a distress call. Mere moments later, NADIA erupted from the ground, stared down a beast 10 times her size, and sent it packing with a wordless, icy glare. Then, she turned to care for the wounded and distraught. Thus, NADIA was reintroduced to the world. The Portal Gang. An unofficial name coined by very creative internet users for the group behind the recent spike in portal-based crime. What were previously thought to be individual, isolated events were connected by both normal and Reddit detectives alike through one detail. In nearly every case, the portal thieves didn't necessarily go for the most expensive items, they went for the most powerful ones. After that revelation, investigation kicked into overdrive, and 2 other details were discovered. 1, they all seem to be wearing the same ring. 2, the criminals almost exclusively use portal energy for both movement and combat, never using much else beyond it. So, the going theory is that they're all wearing rings that sap their powers in order to fuel the portals. Though, why a previously completely unheard of group is suddenly going to these lengths is still a mystery. The Glitch. Rachel No Last Name is a minor character from the okay-selling survival horror game From Dusk Until Morning. Though there are thousands of copies of her across the globe, only one stands out. In part due to her player's odd, cheat code-heavy playstyle, this Rachel slowly gained scraps of sentience. But the true tipping point came when she used her déjà vu to cheat her scripted death. Instances of the sentient character anomaly usually end there. The fully aware entity stays trapped in their limited, virtual world until they're destroyed by a freaked out player or corroded by time. If their player happens to be both nice and clever, the entity can be transferred to a better virtual world or even projected into the real one, but in essence their situation never really changes. But then, during one rare, stormy night, a bolt of pulse lightning burnt clean through an apartment building, causing a massive power surge to instantly short-circuit every single electronic within, except for a certain game console. Instead, the storm's untamed energy tangled with Rachel's digital soul, filling it to bursting. A staticky numbness suddenly washing over her mind and model, she collapsed into the virtual snow as her blurred vision faded. When she came to, she was somewhere new. This place was warm, dark, and carpeted. Deliriously pulling herself to her feet, every little detail of the room bombarded her overwhelmed senses. She could hear and smell things she never had, and even in the dark, colors looked different, richer than how she knew them. That's what made it click. Now, somehow, she was just standing in her player's living room in the real world. Though Rachel became perfectly real, she's technically no more human than she was before. Despite her idle breathing and blinking animations, she doesn't actually have any innards. Instead, she has her console for a brain and her game disc for a heart. Being from a horror game, she actually does have a blood-like substance, though. But what she lacks in organs, she has in power. Wielding technokinesis, electrokinesis, superhuman durability, and a glitchy, teleportation-like rush ability, Rachel suits up and fights for justice on occasion. Her main focus is on finding and rescuing other sentient characters using her biggest power, Realize. At a great energy cost, Realize can pull any other creature affected by the sentient character's anomaly into the real world as a creature just like her. Bards. A bard is a class of magic user who harnesses the energy of music, emotions, and vibes to perform their feats. What those feats are exactly is generally tied to what instrument they specialize in. Stringed instrument players tend to be the illusionists, able to trick any of the five senses with ease, and able to pull off a true bit of small reality bending every now and then, too. Plus, most have a handful of small spells they can cast by playing, like healing or floating. Electric guitar players are bards' answer to warriors. They can cast barriers, create shockwaves, and shoot magic, soul-damaging attacks. They work great as support, too, able to boost allies' speed, strength, and courage by bringing out their fighting spirit with a riff. Singers. Every bard can manipulate thoughts and emotions somehow, but singers are the masters. Even the shy ones can instantly turn a conversation in their favor with nothing but a charming word. And if they're singing, the same for an entire crowd. Just remember that a bard doesn't control people, they simply make them more suggestible. Lastly, with a hum or a whistle, a singer has access to the same spells that a stringed instrument player does. DJs are a type of technomancer. Amateurs can manipulate the software around them, but experts can go so far as making machines assemble themselves as they play. Every DJ has to condense their bulky equipment somehow. Some have power armor, some have motorcycles, and some just have backpacks. But whatever the shape, they're all absolutely kitted out with everything from lasers to turntables, ready for action at a moment's notice. And finally, piano players used to be simple. Due to the sheer size of their instrument, they could cast massive, strong barriers, and they were second only to singers in manipulating crowds. But with the rise of MIDI keyboards that can mimic any instrument, piano players have quickly become the jacks of all trades among bards. Amelia. Above all, Amelia is a kind, loving person who can never refuse someone in need. Secondly, she's the only modern being with unrestricted access to the mirror dimension, able to use it for just about anything from combat to travel to even just a living space. Beyond that, she can bend sand, forge it into glass, and turn any glass reflective. Her standout ability, though, is mirror cloning. At a high energy cost, she can temporarily or permanently bring just about anything smaller than a house from the mirror dimension into the prime one, including people. To gather the required energy, she has two specialty mirror types, solar glass and the scrap mirror, the latter being one that lets her sacrifice items, mainly magical ones, for so-called mirror energy. In somewhat of an opposition to Amelia's bubbly personality, she's not afraid to step on some toes for the greater good. This, combined with her vague dislike for authority, would make her the perfect vigilante, but that's not really what she is. In favor of her own moral code, she doesn't care about the actual law, and she tends to avoid combat whenever possible, too. She's more of an elusive, vagrant helping hand who just happens to commit a little crime every now and then. The Cameraman.
I want to take a pic.
Pulse storms. Pulse storms are incredibly destructive, violently charged magical superstorms that are rare and impossible to predict. Anything hit by the pulse lightning will be more or less atomized on the spot, but an extremely lucky few will mutate, becoming hyper-anomalous overnight. Both the danger and effects of pulse lightning vary depending on a number of factors, like indirect hits, physical strength, magical strength, and willpower. But when it comes to where these storms come from, though, the facts get less concrete. Seers specializing in theoretical pre-universal history theorized that they're some sort of echo from the way the previous universe was destroyed. But seeing that far into the past and through the distorting lens of a universal reset, it's impossible to be sure. Big planet, tiny universe. While the storm investigations may have been a bust, seers tend to do better with the big picture. Comparing the previous universe with this one yields both fascinating and devastating results. The better news is that Earth is about 3 times bigger than it used to be. The worse news is that our universe is both infinitely smaller and actively shrinking in on us. But until the void swallows us whole, we get a real show. Because a small universe is a dense one, and a dense universe is a beautiful one. Nobody knows that better than the girl on the mountain, HELENA. Helena was less born and more created when 12 rays of multicolored cosmic energy descended from the heavens to the mountain at the center of the galactic forest and coalesced to form a human child. Helena's first real humanoid contact was when NADIA discovered her as a toddler, sleeping in the ruins of the old castle. Surprised, yet entirely calm, the elemental silently scooped the child from the cold, stone brick floor and cradled her warmly as she carried her to the village below. From that night until quite recently, that's where Helena stayed. She was collectively raised by the wise denizens of the galactic forest. They were outstanding caretakers, gentle, kind, and nurturing to her mind, body, and oversized, overwhelmingly powerful soul. The only problem was, caretakers were all she had. She wasn't lonely, exactly, but she wasn't quite content either. These days, an aimless, 20-year-old Helena, now widely known as the single most powerful person on the planet, has returned to her mountain. She mostly stays in her little cottage by the stars, alone with her music, costume designing, and endless stream of content. But she's also known to regularly visit Cosmo City to people watch and to give her outfits a test run. Helena did try out the whole superhero thing a couple months ago, but gave it up very quickly. Naturally, fighting is mind-numbingly easy for her, so she left the work to the professionals. Now she just averts the odd natural disaster when nobody else can. A young man, simply known as Star, wanders down the rusted tracks, approaching his destination as dusk settles in. Though the world grows dimmer by the second, the boy doesn't worry about his fading vision. Instead, his hand drifts up to the center gem of his necklace and presses it. His eyes flash and power surges through him as the crystals glisten with pure starlight. Safely tucking the artifact back into his shirt, he summons an intense white aura around his hand to light the area. The gaping, murky mouth of an abandoned tunnel towers before him. This is definitely the spot. But as he starts searching for the box, something catches his eye. A spark of orange inside the tunnel. Cautiously approaching the tiny, spinning ring, what's happening clicks with him seconds before the portal violently twists open, bouncing, fiery sparks entirely flooding the place. As the masked thief steps out onto the track, the boy backs up, raises an eyebrow, and says, "You guys are using geocaching now? Low blow, man." The thief shrugs. The boss would disagree. "You were already about to trade something in. Why not that necklace of yours?" Frowning with determination, Star puts up his shining fists. Not a chance. "Yeah, figured." The thief grabs the edge of the portal behind him and rips, unraveling the sparking orange energy into a whip. He cracks it before lashing at Star, the boy managing to block with his glowing hand. Before the bandit can pull back, Star catches the whip and yanks, pulling him to the ground. But with a swipe of his hand, he crashes through a portal instead. Stumbling to a disorienting stop outside, the thief looks up just in time to watch the pencil-thin beams of light hit him squarely in the chest, launching him back yards and forcing a panicked, massive waste of energy on a brute force blast just to slow his fall. But despite the softer landing, the ground still rocks and metal. The thief takes a second to recover on the bridge, breathing heavily as he stares out at the water. Long enough, in fact, for Star to figure out a rudimentary human slingshot using only a couple glowing bungee ropes. The bandit, horrified at the sight of an airborne human man careening at his face, rips a portal open in record time, throwing Star over the railing to the ocean below. Twisting mid-fall, Star whips his hand, shooting an incandescent cable from his palm. Latching onto the bridge, it goes taut with no time to spare. Pure momentum propelling him, the boy swings under the bridge, shoes skimming the water. As the cable comes to an end, it wraps tightly around the bridge, throwing Star high into the air above his enemy's head. Grinning wildly, he plummets, shoes engulfed in flaming white. Landing silently behind the seemingly unaware thief, Star taps him on the shoulder. When he whips around, Star throws a fiery, glowing punch right through a tiny defense portal and into his own face. Blinded, Star stumbles backwards, catching himself on the railing. Pain creeping into his numb jaw, he feels the cool, comforting chain of his necklace snap against his neck as the thief rips it away. Vision only just starting to return, Star pushes off the rail and throws another punch, but only finds air. Momentum too much, he loses his balance and falls to his knees. Squinting up at his enemy, Star watches him calmly open a long-distance portal and step into some large, dark room. Gritting his teeth, Star wills himself to his feet before lunging for the portal. Of course, he's too late. But as the flaming ring twists closed, the thief turns, takes something from his pocket, and tosses it to Star. Catching it on instinct, he turns the thin, plastic rectangle over and stares at it blankly for a long while. It's a $50 Olive Garden gift card with a note attached, reading, "Sorry for the inconvenience.